Hey guys, it's Zach back with a couple of Ninjutso 10s and the Ninjutso screwdriver. Just kidding. I'm going to actually do some first impressions of both the 10 and the 10 Air that I have here. Shout out to Ninjutso for sending these out for review. And I'm also going to do a quick teardown of the 10 just because I want to see what the internals look like and get a glimpse at those switches. So the 10 Air, this has got the smaller battery in it. This comes in around 46.5 grams on my scale with their HyperSkates on. Talk about those in a second. And then we have the 10. This comes in at 54.6 grams, I believe, on my scale. I'm running some Ultra Glide Ice dots on here because I want to compare just some standard quicker dots to the experience I'm getting here on the HyperSkates rather. My first impression of both these mice is actually really positive. Definitely GPX adjacent, but you can see there's also some shape differences here where we taper off more quickly here in the back. Not quite as tall throughout the front of the mouse. The home height overall is similar, but like this does not feel like a GPX in hand. It's definitely, like I said, a GPX competitor, but in my mind, just a better mouse than the GPX. It's got their HyperClick technology, which again, we'll take a look at the switches here in a bit. They're interesting between these two copies because on my 10 Air they're a little bit heavier. I know AimAdapt says his were more like the GPX2 and how heavy they were. My GPX2 switches are much heavier, at least 25% I would say, than my 10 Air. And my 10 switches, interestingly enough, are actually maybe 25% lighter than the 10 Air. I'm assuming that's not intentional, it's just QC tolerances, which is quite interesting to find such a difference. I do actually like to feel a little bit better on the lighter clicks here in the 10, but they still feel pretty good here in the 10 Air. I've been messing around with these today, and actually at work it dawned on me that the clicks in this actually remind me sort of like Razer opticals in how they sound and almost feel, but there's just like, there's a difference in how the plastic on the mouse, and they're just a little bit snappier, I guess, more responsive. Could be honeymoon period. I'll test these mice out quite a bit more before I do my full review. The scroll wheel here, as you can see, is very textured. That rubber feels nice. Defined steps. Click is very spammable. I wouldn't worry about 10 Air versus 10 for build quality. Both of these, and you'll see why on the inside, built like a rock. Zero flex I can find anywhere on the mouse. I have seen some cracking on the pressing really hard here on the top after people saw the Corsair Saber V2 Pro. Wanted to try it on their 10 Air. I wouldn't suggest doing that, but overall built super well. Side buttons are really nice and snappy. Not a lot of post travel, not a lot of pre travel. Way better than the GPX in that regard. HyperSkates are interesting. I know AimAdapt said that he was experiencing some like almost like sticky feeling, and I guess I can kind of feel that. I didn't perform much differently between these two mice when I was testing earlier with just these standard speedier dots. I know a friend I have who's been getting a lot of personal bests using these skates on this mouse, so I don't think they're necessarily as big of a negative as some have made them out to be, but they might not be for you. They do feel a little bit different than your standard skates. I don't know if they're the best thing to ever happen to skates necessarily, but they are definitely a different option. And then beside that, the coating on these mice is really, really good. It's really grippy. When my hand was warm, it felt about as grippy as like a Viper V3 Pro, but not in the same way. It's a little bit drier. And I swear to you, my 10 feels glossier. Like it feels like the coating's better on my 10 than my 10 Air, which again, not sure if QC, not sure if, I don't think it's intentional. That's not called out as a difference between the mice. That makes my 10 feel a little bit better in hand as far as the coating goes. And I will say the main difference between these, you can tell the 8 gram, said it's supposed to be 7, like 8 gram difference. This feels like a little hollow, almost in an impressive way how light this is for how big it is. And this just feels a little more rock solid, a little more dense, I would say. Like not that this doesn't feel rock solid, there's no flex. And again, you'll see why, but this just, you can tell is a little more dense. So if you know you like the mid 50 range, the 10's the option for you. If you want to feel more like a little bit lighter, this like feels more like Mad R adjacent in like size to weight ratio. This might be the way we want to go here at the 10 Air. So with that, let's start to crack open this 10. And yes, I did stick dots over the screws. Not a big deal. I'll stick them back on. It's just the exact spots I wanted to put the dots. And if I lose these dots, it's fine. I have about 11 billion skates and I need to burn through them at some point. So life will go on. Got 5 screws here, as you can see clearly, to get the bottom of the mouse off. I have disassembled this once already. This screw for some reason, and this screw will loosen but not come out of the shell, I guess, until you pull it apart. So they stick in there and then they just kind of pop out when you take the mouse apart. Weird caveat, but we can pop it open here, a little squeeze, gets the back up. All right, so now we got the mouse opened. You can see the ribbon cable here is quite interesting, goes to 3 different places. USB-C port, the clicks, and the side buttons all in one fat cable into the PCB. You can see they have the battery here under this sort of brace, which is nice, never gonna come loose. Very interesting, very small, fascinating, impressive PCB. You can see the AIM Ninja sensor there, their version of the 3950. Side note, this piece here just flips up to release that cable. Didn't realize that first time. Thank God. And as you'll notice, the entire click structure is in this sort of internal skeleton reinforcement piece here. So even though the bottom of the mouse is off, we can still fully use and test the clicks here, which is pretty cool. And now the not so fun part of my job here is these 9 internal screws you can see to get that skeleton sort of out. And the clicks here will come with it, leaving only this top shell. A few things I'll talk about here more. These 2 screws right here hold this little tiny piece here, like this is a separate piece, and same here with the side buttons in place, and they do a massively impressive job of reinforcing the sides and preventing side flex. A really cool solution to see here from Ninjutso, and any company not doing something like this should probably think about doing so. As you can see, once I get this screw off here, that internal reinforcement piece will sort of just drop off. Or I guess if I pull here, you can see it fits over these two little screw holes. It sort of locks in place, but I can just pop that off. First time I did this, it fell off and scared the crap out of me because I didn't know where it went back, but shockingly not that complex. Figured that out. This was a little bit trickier to get back in because of the ribbon cable, but it also sort of pops off there, as you can see. And now this is free from the top shell. We just need to remove it, which is a little bit tricky, but really not that challenging if you just pull it down and through. The side button little brace here is what sort of prevents that. You just pull it out a bit and we're free. All that's really left is some structure on the side buttons. Side buttons held in with this little piece here. This does snap to the side and then is held in further by this little piece here that dropped out, and all that connected to the main piece that I'm about to show you is what keeps those side buttons from having too much post travel as well. So here's the actual sort of internal skeleton. You can see they have their blue custom Ninjutso switches there. Interestingly, M1 and M2 still entirely in place here on this sort of internal skeleton. Then you've also got your little TTC side buttons here mounted to that structure. Very tactile when pressing them, honestly. But yeah, it's going to be these two screws here. There's a look at how the switch sits up against M1 with their hyperclick system, and we'll see what that looks like when it's taken off. Quick look at the bottom here just for your information. So here's your M2, standard structure there. No tape, no foam or anything here. Just a standard like kind of black plastic piece. There we go. This mechanism right here is what I believe is their button tensioning system. Plastic piece right here fits up under that hole you see. It's sort of like the plunger on the button here, and that serves to just minimize the pre-travel, I believe, and just click the switch instantly. And as you can see from this side, that is resting directly on the switch the second you make any force that is actually in the switch. No real indication on these switches what they might be like a collab with or like a custom version of for Ninjutso switches. Still curious if we can find that out. But overall, just a really cool design here from Ninjutso, and a definitely interesting choice by me to make this my first teardown, as it's not the most standard internals of a mouse. All right, dear Lord, let's put this thing back together. Just to reiterate, I haven't put the brace piece back in here. See how there's some flex here on the side shell, and we saw none when I was testing earlier. That's what I'm talking about. So that's it for my quick first impressions, sort of teardown of the 10 and the 10 Air. I've been going back and forth by the minute on which these mice I'm enjoying more. I mean, they're both very well built. Like if you have a weight preference, you can just pick either one of these. You'll be good to go. I do currently have a lean toward the 10 Air for what it's worth. Just that feeling of the mouse being this light and also being this large is really, really nice in hand. But again, this does feel denser, the 10. Honestly, coming into these, I was very excited to test them, but I wasn't sure how I was going to feel because they were so GPS-esque. In hand, it does feel a little less potato-ish than the GPX. As you can see here, though, very, very flat sides, very safe shape. I get why Ninjutso did this after coming from the Sora V2 with this more very claw-focused shape. This you can do for any grip, any size. It kind of makes sense for every company to have a GPX shape. Again, my full review of these in depth, my standard process, my standard format will be coming soon, but I wanted to get this out quickly and figured I'd do a little foray into sort of like the teardown world and look at the internals because they're more interesting on this mouse than some other ones. But that wraps up for my early thoughts on the 10 and the 10 Air. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. And with that, we'll see you.